Let's go straight to Jake Gibson and Bryan Llenas. Jake was in the courtroom and he has the indictment. Jake and Bryan, what can you tell us?
All right, Martha, Jake Gibson is the Department of Justice producer. Jake, what can you tell us about the charges in the indictment?
So 34 charges. They're felony charges for falsifying business records in New York. And then also within that, using those records to help suppress a story that may have done damage to his campaign. Those are the charges, 34 of them. Mr. Trump walked in. Former President Trump walked in. He seemed to have a bit of a swagger. He looked stoic. He looked stone-faced. He pled not guilty. He said not guilty. At some point, the prosecution brought up all of the social media posts that he has put out recently, including the one where he's holding a bat next to DA Bragg. And the prosecution said this is could be looked at as inciting violence, and they wanted Judge Merchan to. It seemed like they wanted him to give a gag order. Justice Merchan said that no, he wouldn't give a gag order, but he said to Mr. Trump and to his attorneys, I don't want to see this anymore. I don't want to see the next time that I see something like this, I might have a different idea about what I should do. His attorney said that, look, this case they've been investigating this for 3 years. There's been selective leaks that are harming former President Trump, and it's unthinkable that he wouldn't be allowed to defend himself. That is their way of justifying his posts. The judge said that he wasn't sure that justified if he was inciting violence, right? Later, the prosecution also said that there was a conflict of interest with defense attorney Tacopino, that they just received a letter from Stormy Daniels' lawyer wherein they say that he had communications with her, and that's a conflict of interest. Tacopino said that no, that he had never met with her, had never spoken with her, that she called his office looking to hire him, spoke to a paralegal, but he never took her, he never took her as a client, so that shouldn't be a conflict of interest. Very interestingly, the prosecution wants this to go to trial in January of 2024, and you know what else is in January of 2024 is primary season for the presidential election. Former President Trump's team didn't want anything to do with that. They want to push it further out. However, the judge said, I would like to move expeditiously. There will be motions on both sides. Defense motions will come next, and then the prosecution will have a response. On December 4th, there will be another hearing here where the judge will give his decision on the motions, okay? So that's the next time we have something here, December 4th, in person. President Trump's team, hinted that maybe they didn't want him to come to that hearing. And the judge said it's good if he would come to these hearings. A jury eventually, if there is a trial, would want to see him. And the defense said, right, but think of all the money that was spent with this today, and how much the burden this put on the city. And the judge seemed to agree that it was a serious burden, but that he still thought that Mr. Trump should attend. And he denied their request that maybe if he didn't want to attend the December 4th hearing. He said maybe in the future we could let him out of one, but I'd like to see him at the December 4th hearing.
A ton of information. Martha, you can come in at any moment with the question, but I just want to kind of wrap up what you were saying. So the former president will have his next hearing on December 4th here in Manhattan. Correct. There was the talk of the gag order. Judge Merchan was not interested in doing that because he did not think that it was an incitement of violence, the post from the former president.
What he said is, I'm requesting that you don't do that. It's a request at this point. It's not an order. It's a request.
That he stay off of social media.
That he not do things that might be looked as inciting some type of violence, or or getting having something that would end up with a protest where someone could be hurt. And he said, now, I'm not going to impose a gag order now. However, if, the prosecution showed the judge the post, they gave him printed copies of them, and he was looking at them, and he said, and if I see these, if I get this passed to me again, I might have a different idea about this. And this is how it works in a lot of trials. Judges consider a gag order to be a pretty severe order. And so he didn't, it seemed like, want to go out there already on the first hearing on arraignment day and go that far.
Okay. And it seems like this had to deal with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. Is that right?
I didn't hear the name Karen McDougal, but we did hear the name Stormy Daniels. We definitely, her name was mentioned in court today.
Okay. Martha,
Yeah, Brian, quick question. So that's significant, I think, because one of the things that we were looking to potentially intensify this presentation of this indictment was that we heard David Pecker involved in 2 hearings, and he came back at the end and thought maybe the Karen McDougal's part of the story was going to kind of put some more substance behind this, but it sounds like that's not the case. And so the judge says he wants to move, fairly quickly, and the next hearing isn't until December 4th. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, no, you heard that right. So he wants to move fairly quickly, but the next hearing isn't until December 4th.
Because there will be motions. I think it's September 19th. In August, there are the motions that the defense can file, and then the prosecution has to respond by September 19th, and then the next hearing would be December 4th. And it is quite a ways off, yes.
Did the defense show their cards on the types of motions that they're going to file? For instance, change of venue. Was there a motion to dismiss the case outright?
Change of venue was not mentioned. However, when the prosecution laid out, or they talked about a little bit of the background of the charges and launched into a bit of an attack about Mr. Trump's what he's been saying over social media, the defense attorney got up and said, "I didn't know we were doing opening statements today. I didn't know," he seemed to be taking a jab at them that I thought this was an arraignment day, not, you're going to give us your whole opening statement.
Okay, so defense didn't want to show their cards clearly and get into that kind of detail at this time. And Martha, you had mentioned David Pecker. We have a press release, and I'm sure you have it as well, from the DA Alvin Bragg that goes over some of these counts, and it does talk about AMI, which was American Media Company. David Pecker was the witness who was brought into the grand jury, correct? And he testified twice, as you mentioned, Martha, and he was accused of catch for kill. Essentially, he was the person who was the intermediary between him and Michael Cohen, the former president's personal attorney, to pay Karen McDougal $150,000. And that instance of the $150,000 payment is mentioned in the DA's press release describing these payments and describing these felony counts. So it does appear that Karen McDougal is at the basis of this, and David Pecker, who was interviewed multiple times by the grand jury, as well as Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. Jake, do you have anything else you'd like to offer us before we send it back over to Martha?
I think it's worth noting. I think I brought it up already, but I may not have. That President Trump, former President Trump, definitely glared at the DA Bragg when he left. He seemed to get up, look around the room, because he walked in. Trump was the last one to walk in the hearing, and this was pretty intense. I mean, it's not a huge room, but there's probably 50 reporters in there. There were 15, 20, 25 law enforcement officials that were on the end of each row. So we couldn't really see that well because they're standing up in front, so we can't really see up there. What you really saw well was him enter the room and leave the room. There was Secret Service agents in there. There were the court police. There were just a lot of police in there, and they were very strict with the press. We will kick you out of here. We see a phone, we'll kick you out. People would try to sit up a little bit to look. Sit down. I think this was a very serious. It was very intense in there.
What was the judge's tone when he was? Did he admonish the former president or his lawyers?
No, Judge Merchan was very measured. There was not. He did not show his. He did not seem to have any beef with President Trump. I think he went out of his way to make sure that he was showing everyone that he could be very fair about this.
Jake Gibson, thank you. Incredible job in there. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.